There's no time.
The time is
13
o'clock.
Hello everybody, it's episode 141. We're actually doing another true crime, not necessarily a murder, although I guess it could be. We actually were going to do this topic, which is the disappearance of Madeleine Mccann, the very famous, probably the most famous missing persons case in modern history. I was actually going to do it on the last show that we did about creepy disappearances. I don't remember what episode that was, but I think we ended up doing like 4 or 5 cases on there, and it went on so long that I didn't have time to get to it. And then the more I look into the case, it really needs its own episode because it's a really complicated case. I mean, shit, Netflix.
This thing has its own series on
Netflix just did an 8-episode series about the disappearance, which actually like was put up after I'd already decided to do this. So so I actually ended up watching all of that. There's not a huge amount of new information on that one, aside from what can be found in other sources. This is like a really fascinating case because one, they just have no idea what happened to this little girl, where she went to, but also it's kind of horrible because there was this whole thing between, the British police and the Portuguese police, and
what they did to the parents.
And and the horrible things that the media said about the parents, that people on Twitter said about the parents, that they're still saying. I mean, they're getting death threats and all this other kind of stuff, even though it's very, very unlikely that they had anything to do.
I think it's very unlikely that
with their child disappearing. I'm just going to say that, I'm saying, it's not impossible, but I'm just saying I consider it very, very unlikely. And there's actually no evidence to suggest.
Until there's a conviction, that there is no guilt.
Yeah. And
there was no evidence that the parents had anything to do with this.
And so, so that's kind of makes me sad too, because it's like, not only did these poor people have their little girl abducted, but then they had to put up with like a bunch of stupid chuckleheads on fucking Twitter, accusing them of like killing her and just, saying they should die and all this other kind of crap.
That was back when the internet troll phenomenon was new. People really weren't used
Twitter
to
was only a year old, I think, when she disappeared, when Madeleine disappeared.
So, people didn't know how to take the abuse back then. They didn't even know what a troll was.
Well, and Twitter's the worst. So
I never even got Twitter. I never even went on it.
I never actually go on there. It's like I post the show. I have a Twitter account for 13 o'clock, but I just post the show on there. It just goes automatically, and I don't know. It
seems like half of YouTube half of the YouTube content is complaining about Twitter.
Yeah,
what a piece of shit that Twitter is. So
I don't really see the point.
I have Instagram and I never use it.
Yeah.
So they say that's getting to be like Twitter. I don't know. I don't think you can say much. I think you can just trade photos and respond to them, or put like them or dislike them. I think only like them. I don't know.
Well, you can put hashtags and shit on it.
Okay.
Like people have started. I don't know. It's like people have already. I don't actually. I have a personal Instagram account, but I never use it either. It's like people are like, oh, you should have one for the show because a lot of people use that, which they do. I know a lot of younger people use it, and a lot of people have bugged me about it. But I'm just like,
we should do it, even though I don't really know how to use it.
I should, but it's like it only really kind of works as an app on your phone, and I have like an old phone that doesn't have much memory on it because I can't afford these fancy newfangled phones. I have a smartphone, but it's like several years old.
I got a couple of phones around here. You might get you that one. I got that. Remember they got that phone that's kind of like a company phone.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
All right. What was it? iPhone. I don't know. It's not an iPhone.
No.
No. What is that thing?
Is it a Galaxy?
I
have a Galaxy.
It's a Galaxy.
A Samsung Galaxy, but mine's really old. I think it's like an S3 or an S4,
right.
And I think the S10 or whatever the fuck.
I think this is like a 7. I never use it. I don't even have a phone number anymore. What the fuck do I need a phone number for?
Yeah, you don't even have a phone. You just have a tablet.
I had a phone. And I just stopped. I never used it for like 2 or 3 years, and I said, "Man, I'm cutting phone." Because everybody has me on Messenger. What do I? And I don't want to talk on the phone.
I don't want to talk on the phone
No.
either. I don't mind if people like text me or like message me and stuff, but it's like, do not fucking call me. I won't answer.
Man, it takes me back to like the 90s, the 80s and the 90s.
I hate talking on the
Back
phone.
before somebody called you, you wouldn't even know who it was until you answered.
Yeah.
Remember how dangerous that shit was?
Well, now half the
They
time
pick
I don't
it-
know
oh,
who it is
shit,
because
it's
it's
you.
just like I see. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
now it's like I see the phone number. I'm like, who the fuck's
Nope.
that?
Yeah.
Even if I know who it
Yeah.
is, half the time I won't answer it because I'm just like, no, text me.
Do we have any shout outs or anything before we start this?
I don't think so. Just
Okay.
our regular kind of stuff. Hey, check out our Patreon or whatever.
Right.
But we haven't had any new ones since. We're recording this a little bit early because
We're just trying to get ahead a little
we're
bit.
just trying to get a little bit ahead. So
Yeah.
this is actually probably like a week or two ahead of when this is going to go up. So yeah, so we haven't had any new patrons since I recorded the last show. Hey,
Yeah, last one we did was only a couple of days ago. That's why I'm still fat.
that's
Yeah.
why you're still.
I said I was going to lose some weight. I'm still fat because it's only a couple of days later, man. Fucking give me a break.
Give me a
man.
break.
Give me a break.
Right. All right.
Yeah.
So, as I said, we're going to be talking today about the disappearance of Madeleine McCann. This has been requested numerous times, and like I said, I was going to do it on our disappearances show that I did, months ago, but I just didn't get around to it. We didn't have time, and like I said, this kind of needs its own show because there's a lot of shit going on. So, famously, Madeleine McCann, 3 years old. She was actually, when she disappeared, it was actually about 9 days before her 4th birthday.
If you guys don't know who it is she's talking about, look at the screen.
Yeah.
It was that case about that pretty girl that got snatched. She had an English parents. They were in Spain, I think, or Portugal.
Portugal.
And they put her to bed, and when they woke up, she was gone. But her brother and sister weren't taken.
Yeah.
She had some twins, and they never did see that girl again.
Yeah.
And it was like a big thing. They were looking for that girl for a long time.
Yeah.
Pretty
And
little
that's
blonde girl. How old was she?
3, I just said.
3.
Well,
Yeah.
she was almost 4.
Almost 4,
She
yeah.
she disappeared about 9 days before.
It's almost
her
kind of like a
birthday.
John Benet Ramsey type case, except they knew she was dead. This one they didn't. They just didn't know who killed her.
Yeah, they have never
Yeah.
found her, and there is speculation that it's possible that she could still be alive because maybe she was kidnapped by some like sex
It's
trafficking ring or
happened.
something. It has happened before, or somebody
Nabbed her and
nabbed her and like she got sold to like a rich couple or something like that. It does, or she was kept in a basement or something. That's horrible, but it does happen. So the parents are still obviously holding out hope that she will still be found alive. But
Yeah, the John Benet case never got solved either. Although I have a theory over that one.
we have to do a show about that
Well,
one.
should
too,
I
at some
save
point.
it for the show?
Well, if you want.
I'll save it for the show, but I think I know who did it.
Yeah.
I think so. I think a lot of people know who did it. I don't think it's the mom.
I don't know a great deal
Yeah.
about it. Like,
Okay.
I'd have to look up all the details and stuff.
It just
before I
kind of dawned on me
came
that
to an opinion about
it, it just dawned on me listening to the that whole case that we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it later.
it. Like I said, that needs its whole own show too, because
Yeah,
that's a
yeah.
whole other can of
Right.
worms.
Right.
And this one, like I said, yes, we do a lot of true crime shows, and yes, we give our opinions on whether we think, but in the end, it's like, my opinion doesn't really matter. I wasn't there. I wasn't like on the investigation. I can lean a particular way. I'm leaning a particular way in that I think that this was a stranger abduction. I really don't think that her parents had anything to do with this. And I'm talking about the Madeleine McCann case, not the John Benet Ramsey case. So whether or not you agree with that, I don't know. It doesn't really matter, like I said, because I'm not working on the case and no one gives a shit what I think about it. But I'm just saying I really don't think the parents had anything to do
don't
with
think
it
so
in this
either.
particular
Yeah, I'm gonna get that out of
case.
the way. I don't think the parents had anything to do with it.
No, I don't either. So let's set the scene. This was actually early May of 2007. Now, the McCann family, which was Kate and Jerry, they were both doctors. And they had 3 children. Madeleine, who was, almost 4. They also had twins that I think were only 2 at the time. They were younger than Madeleine. So they were going on a week-long spring vacation to Portugal. And they rented this apartment in this village called Praia de Luz. And this particular place, which is on the Algarve Peninsula of Portugal, very, very popular with British tourists. In fact, this particular area is called Little Britain because of so many. It's not just British tourists, but a lot of Brits also live there, have moved there, are expats. So there's a lot of other British people in this particular area. So they go on this vacation. It wasn't just their family. They were also accompanied by several of their friends who also had children. Most of their friends were also doctors. I think one of them was a lawyer. So altogether, this was, it was 7 adults, and then there were 8 kids, and that included the McCann's 3 kids. So the other couples had 5 had 5 kids between them. So these were their friends of theirs were Fiona and David Payne. These were also both doctors. They had 2 kids. Fiona's mother, Diane Webster. They had both worked in the same hospital with Kate McCann. There were also 2 other couples, Jane Tanner and Russell O'Brien. They were boyfriend and girlfriend. They had 2 kids. Also Matthew Oldfield, who was a doctor, and his wife Rachel, who was a lawyer, and they had a daughter. So they were all, they pretty much had, the McCanns had apartment 5A, which is on the corner. And there's pictures of this all over the place. If you look at this, it's called the Ocean Club. It was like a resort. It had all these, they were privately owned apartments, but it was like a whole resort. There was like a pool, there was tennis courts, there was a restaurant, there was a bar, there was like all this stuff like in one area. So you didn't really have to leave that area. You know what I mean? Like
it was a nice place. You're not talking about something junky. It was nice.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's a really nice place. And they had a lot of these like around on that Portuguese coast because, like I said, this is a really big like holiday destination, especially for British and German tourists.
Yeah.
So they were in 5A, which was on the corner, and then the other couples were either in the ones next to them, and I think one was maybe above them, like on the second floor. So they were all kind of like together. Now they had been there for several days, and May 3rd was the day before they were supposed to leave. Now on this particular day, because they had got there on April 28th, and like I said, they'd been doing pretty much the same stuff. There was, the resort had like a little kids club, so you could drop your kids off there during the day, and they would like, do stuff with them, and they would, play games or whatever it was they were doing, while the adults were, having tennis lessons or swimming or whatever it was they were doing. And so they had kind of fallen into this routine. Now, the day before they were supposed to leave, which was May 3rd, they did the same kind of stuff. The kids had been at the kids club in the morning, then they had lunch in the apartment, and then they went and swam in the pool. And then at around, 5-6 o'clock, they took the kids back to the apartment because Kate said they were really worn out because they'd been playing and swimming all day. So Jerry, the husband, he goes to his tennis lesson, and Kate like reads to the kids and get them all ready for bed and everything like that. Now,
let me point out something though.
What's that?
They've been here at this little compound, this resort, long enough, and they were doing a lot of stuff. This is plenty of time for somebody to see this kid. That really struck me. Okay.
And something else I'm going to say too.
They went down the pool. They went. There's, what I mean. Everybody saw this kid, which I think that's a part of. I think that's a clue.
Yeah.
Whoever got that kid, I think, saw that kid during that phase.
Yeah, because I'm kind of leaning toward, spoiler alert, I'm kind of leaning toward the theory that whoever took her either worked there or was around there or was a guest there and had seen her at some point. I think there was some, and other investigators have said this too, that there was some quote unquote reconnaissance going on, and there is reason to believe that.
Yeah. And you know what?
What's that?
My suspicion leans a little bit more towards guest.
Yeah.
Because if it was somebody that worked there, I think this might be a regular occurrence.
Yeah.
If you had a predator that worked there, they'd probably get more than one.
I should note that there had been a lot of break-ins at this particular
It's not quite
club.
the same thing,
I know,
though.
but that had broken in through the windows and stuff.
A person who would take this little girl was somebody who was totally focused on taking little girls.
Yeah.
That's what they did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not a spur-of-the-moment thing.
True.
That's somebody who's into this. This is a pedophile. Or somebody who's going to sell this kid.
Yeah.
I
lean more toward pedophile, but I'm not.
think so, too.
I'm not discounting the whole selling her into sex slavery.
It's too hard.
I know that happens, but it seems like, in
Getting
this circumstance, it seems too far fetched.
It seems far fetched. You got to take a live kid, okay, and whisk this kid away, and then get it to a place where you can ship it out to another country.
And there's people
without being seen
around here.
It's more.
I mean, this is a resort. There's hundreds and hundreds of people around, and the apartment where she was taken from was on the corner. It was accessible by the public streets on 2 sides.
Yeah.
So whoever took her apparently took her out of the bedroom window, which was right there, like on the road.
Kid
you know
was
what I
either
mean?
whisked away quickly and kept in country. Maybe she's still there. I think that's unlikely. Or the kid was whisked away and killed.
Yeah.
And then the body was done away with at a leisurely pace.
Yeah.
That's why it hadn't been found. But let's get on with the story.
Yeah.
I'm thinking but that there was that reconnaissance period like you're talking about.
Yeah, I definitely think there was something. And
whoever
people
saw that kid was watching that kid.
Yeah.
And watching the activities. It's going to be a guy. All right.
Well, obviously.
There's been a few women that have abducted him and murdered.
But it's much rarer.
It's more rare. It was a guy who was watching that kid and liking that kid.
Yeah.
The way that girl looked and the way that girl acted. He goes, that's what I'm going for.
Yeah.
That's what I think. Now, was he going to molest and kill the kid? Or was he just going to say, that kid I can sell to a couple in another country? I mean, there is a slim possibility that could have been.
Yeah, it could go
like
either
that,
way.
But
it could go either way.
yeah, I think it was a sexual predator. It's more likely.
I kind of think it was
more
too.
likely.
And
yeah.
I think it was somebody that was either, like I said, that was around there and that had been watching her or watching the other kids, like trying to pick one out.
I have a thing. I have a feeling it was either a guest inside that complex or a guest in another complex that was visiting that complex when that happened.
Yeah, because like I said,
Somebody
this
that
wasn't
was able to leave.
Yeah, this wasn't the only resort. There's tons
Right.
and tons of resorts. If you see pictures of the Algarve coast, it's just like it's all like holiday resorts, pretty much, just like all along this coast. So there's tons and tons of them.
Might have been a foreign predator in another resort. He goes, I'm not going to do this in the resort I'm staying in. I'm going to do it in the one over there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you could distance yourself from
Well,
it.
and no one would necessarily notice because there's tourists coming and going like all the time, and
If you
there's public are walking around all the
Yeah.
time too, so no one would really notice.
And if you were foreign, I think the Portuguese staff wouldn't ask too many questions. If a British guy or a German guy was just walking around, you know,
yeah, because they were all
they
over
were just
the
that
place.
was just another guest.
Yeah.
You know, even if that was from another resort, it wouldn't have mattered. Because they don't keep close tabs. Security probably low.
Yeah.
You know.
But yeah, so this particular, I also forgot to mention too that on the morning of this particular day, the day before, the morning of the day she disappeared, Madeleine reportedly said to her mother, why didn't you come when me and my brother cried last night? Which her mom didn't think anything about it at the time, but after she was abducted, she thought that was a little weird because then she thought, what if somebody was in the apartment, or what if she saw somebody out the window or something like that? It just seemed like a weird thing to say.
But little kids say weird things all the time.
They do. That's what I mean. It's like, and like I said, she didn't really give it any thought until after Madeleine was taken.
I think she's reading into it.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that was like another little clue. So that happened like the morning, like when they were eating breakfast or whatever. Now, okay, so the afternoon goes by. Like I said, the dad goes and plays tennis. Kate takes the kids back to the apartment and kind of gets them ready to go to bed. She reads them a story or whatever. Now, what they had taken to doing, these were little kids. So what they would do is they would put them to bed like about, 7:30 at night. And then them and all their adult friends would go and eat dinner at the tapas bar, which was right across from the apartments. The pool was in between. Now, so all of their friends did the same thing. They all left their kids sleeping in the apartments, and then they ate dinner at this particular table. Now, what they had done was that they had block booked the table by the pool that overlooked, because it was outside, it was an open air tapas restaurant. So it overlooked the pool and overlooked the apartments. So as the crow flies, it's about 160 feet. If you were actually going to walk it, you had to walk around the pool and like around the street a little bit. So it was actually more like 300 feet. But you could still kind of see the apartments from the restaurant. You couldn't really see the windows or anything like that, but you could kind of see the roof of it. You could kind of see over. And like I said, if I'll find a picture, but there's tons of stuff showing like what the view would have been like and stuff. So that was something that they did. They'd put the kids to bed, and then they would go and eat at 8:30. And they had a reservation saying, the last 4 nights of our vacation, we're going to eat dinner here at 8:30, and we always want this particular table so we can see the apartments from there. And then what they would do is that one of them would get up every half an hour or so and would go check on the kids. You know, either check on their own kids or check on the other kids or something like that. So it's not like they were, oh, let's just leave the kids in the apartment. And, you know, because I think later on after Madeleine disappeared, the McCanns got shit on a lot for why did you leave 3 little kids sleeping in an apartment and you guys were over there eating dinner with your friends. But I don't know. To me, it seemed like not that much different than what if you had like a big, huge house, let's say, like a 5,000, 6,000 square foot house. You put your kids to bed up in their bedroom, like way up in their room. And then you and your friends had dinner down in the fucking living room or out of the patio or something like that. And somebody crawled up the drain pipe of your house and took your kids. No one would...
There's some houses right up here that look like damn shopping malls.
Yeah. No one would say anything then because it's still in your own house.
Right.
But I feel like they got shit on. It's like, even though it was right there, and it's like they kept going back and forth and looking. So I don't really, I don't have kids, so I can't really say. It's like people are like, I would never like.
Well, I've seen European people do some crazy shit by American standards, like have a little baby in a stroller, and then just park it outside
and they leave it outside the cafe or something like that. Yeah, I've seen them do that.
If you did that here, they'd call the cops on you.
Well, if you did that here, they would get kidnapped.
They would get, probably would.
Over there, I don't think
they would. Yeah.
But that's probably why.
A lot of Europeans are not ready for this shit over here. I don't know, though. We're slightly paranoid, I think, because me and you grew up feral.
True.
We did just whatever we wanted.
Yeah, pretty much.
I was down there in them sewers, down in the flood control system in California looking for those giant ants from them. That's what I was down there looking at.
Yeah, true.
With gasoline and shotguns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My brother was doing that too. He'd run around in the woods.
Hell yeah.
Firecrackers and.
Hell yeah. 10-year-old, Gucci Dad's 12 gauge. We had those fucking 12 gauge shotguns. Pow! Shooting the place up at 10. With a gallon of gasoline that we'd steal.
And shit, when you were 5, you were sitting out in the front yard drinking Annie Greensprings wine out of a big
Hell yeah,
jug.
waving at the cars, drinking wine.
And all the kids were just like, look at
that kid. And I'm like, yeah. Hell yeah.
Ah, the 70s. It was
a
a different time.
We didn't play in the 70s. Crime in the 70s, we didn't play.
But yeah.
I had a mustache at 6. Did
you really?
That's how high the testosterone was.
Okay. All right. So, like I said, I'm just going to say right here, I know that people are just be like, why did they leave the kids alone in the apartment and stuff like that? But to me, it doesn't seem that weird because, like I said, they were right there. It's like, all they had to do was walk around the pool and go in and pop in and check on them. So, like I said, it wouldn't be any different than if you had like a big, huge house and you were eating out of the patio and they were inside sleeping. I don't think it's that big of a deal. So, what they did, the bedroom that Madeleine and the twins were in, they put them in the same room. It had she was in a bed that was farthest away from the window. And the twins were in little cots in the middle. And then there was another bed that was by the window, but no one was sleeping in that. Now, the front door of the apartment, they kept that locked. But what they did was they kept the patio door unlocked because it was easier for them to go to the patio door and open the patio door and go in the house. But they kept the kitty's...
Man, the cat is moving the camera.
She's pushing the camera.
She's loving on the camera.
Would you knock that off? She's headbutting it.
Yeah.
But yeah, kitty.
Come here.
She's like, nope, I'm not gonna.
No?
She's peeking over the top of the laptop going, what? I'm not doing anything.
If I say come here, usually she'll come.
Yeah.
But not when she's
today
in the house.
she's just like, no, I'm not doing that.
You're looking sleepy.
Yeah.
Let me show it. You're looking sleepy. There she is. You're looking sleepy.
Look at her.
What's up?
Aw. She's
What's
like,
up?
What that?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, she's going to push on it again.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay, so what they did was like I said, they kept the front door locked, but they had the patio door unlocked, but they had the curtains kind of drawn across it. So they also had the window that was in the bedroom that the kids were in. They kept the window closed, the curtains closed, and the window also had an outside, a shutter. And it had this thing, you could pull it up from the inside. It was like a little ribbon or something like that where you pulled it and it pulled the shutter up. But then when you pulled it down, it kind of, slapped into place, sort of. Now, there was kind of some controversy over whether, you could only open the shutter from the inside or if you only open from the outside or whatever. But, I'll talk about that a little bit later. So on this particular night, May 3rd, they all put their kids to bed and went over to eat like they had been for the last 3 nights. As I said, they had, with the restaurant, they had like an ongoing reservation that, hey, we want this, they called them the Tapas 7.
I never had tapas
in the press. No, I have not.
It looks like little, it's almost kind of like Spanish fancy tacos, right?
Well, not really. It's
like
almost
little cornbread things with little things with bowls.
Yeah, well, it's just kind of like a bunch of different, like, it's almost like they give you a bunch of, like, appetizers of different things, and you can, like, kind of, you know what I mean?
They put it on tortillas? What are they putting it on? Bread?
I guess. I don't know.
Okay.
It's like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's not popular here in the United States, maybe for a reason.
No, it is.
It is? I haven't seen it around here. This is Florida. If it's not in Florida, then it's
yeah, but
no
it's
good.
not like you've ever looked.
It's no good. I gotta find it. We'll find it.
Yeah,
we'll find it.
I'm sure there's some around here. I mean, I've heard of some around.
Think it's worth getting?
I don't know.
Okay.
Why do you ask me this stuff? I don't know.
You're supposed to know this kind of thing.
Okay.
Okay.
So, what's she doing?
Cat laying on its back with feet up in the air.
Is she doing? Film it. It. Do it. Don't move. Don't move, Pookie. Don't move. What's she doing? Look at her.
Look at her. That's some shit down there, huh?
She's a good.
That's her laying on the ground.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Knock that off. Back it up.
Bag it up there.
Sorry, you guys. All right. So they had, like I said, they had block booked this particular table for reservations the last 4 nights. Now, here's something, like I said, that makes me suspect that somebody that worked there or somebody that had been around the resort, I think they might have seen this because in the reservation book for the restaurant, there was a note that said this particular table is block booked for the McCanns because their kids are sleeping in that apartment or in those apartments. And they want to be able to like go over and check on them and be able to see them and stuff like that. So I think that somebody might have seen that note, and Madeleine's mom thinks that too.
So she left a note that the kids were unattended, basically.
Yeah, I suppose. Well, they're saying that's why they wanted that table, and I guess
Right.
whoever wrote it down for the restaurant wrote that down.
Huh.
I don't think they wrote it, so I don't know.
That's weird.
Yeah, that is kind of weird. So, all right. So they're eating and everything seems fine. Now, as I said, they would go every about half an hour and check on their kids and, the other kids or whatever. So Madeleine's dad, Jerry, he takes the first check. He goes about 9:05 p.m. He peeks in the apartment. And he said they all looked asleep and, they were all asleep. Everything was fine. He said the only thing that was unusual was that he thought that he had left the bedroom door mostly closed. Like it was still kind of ajar, but he mostly left it closed. But he said when he went back, it was open slightly more than he thought that he had left it. But other than that, everything looked all right. Like everyone was still there, everything. So then one of the other members of the Tapas 7, Jane Tanner. Now, she left the restaurant at about 9 o'clock because she's going to go check on her own kids. Now, while she's going over there, she sees Jerry McCann, who's talking to somebody else, some other guest that he knew there. And so she passed him. She said that she saw a man carrying a little girl who looked like she was asleep, that had pink pajamas on, bare feet, stuff like that. Now, she said that she kind of described him, but she didn't see his face. I mean, obviously she didn't think anything of it at the time. She just thought it was some guy carrying a kid because, see, here's the thing. The Ocean Club, this resort, it had what they called a night crash, which, you could leave your kids there and there was babysitters. Which, again, that was why a lot of people, freaked out about why did you leave the kids alone in their apartment when they had, a place where you could take kids to leave them at night where someone would watch them. You know what I mean?
I don't know why they're acting that way because it sounds like these parents are just doing the same thing all the other parents are doing.
Right.
They're there with their kids, they're partying, they're having a good time. Sometimes the kids stay up in the apartment, some of them stay... Whoever saw these kids saw them in the day.
Yeah.
Along with everybody else's kids when they're down there at the pool,
Yeah.
I think. And he just knew that they were going to end up doing basically the same things that the other parents were doing. So he He knew that there'd be a routine.
Yeah.
That he knew that the kids would be by themselves eventually.
Yeah.
So he was just going to time it right. That's what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It didn't have anything to do with child neglect.
Yeah,
He
that's
could have done
exactly.
He could have done it to any of the families
Yeah.
that were there. It's just that he chose that one.
Well, and probably he might have even chosen that one either because he chose her specifically or because that apartment was the one that was on the corner and it was the easiest to get into without being seen.
Might have been several things at once.
Because you
yeah.
could approach it from the street without having to like cross in front of the other apartments. You know what I'm
it
saying?
might have been. I like that one, and she's in that apartment. Yeah, I can get her.
In the corner one.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
can get
because
that.
the window faced the street.
That's probably what it was.
Yeah. So as I said, now
Once
Jane
they were
Tanner.
targeted, there was probably very little they could do to prevent it, unless
Yeah.
they were to actually just leave.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But they did. How would they know?
Yeah, you wouldn't.
Somebody
know.
wants
That-
if somebody wants that kid under certain situations like that, they'll get him.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Hindsight is 20/20. Right. You know, it's horrible to say that, but it's like I feel like there wasn't anything they could have done differently. If somebody wanted that little girl, they would have got her.
They just would have waited for another opportunity.
Yeah, which that's sad.
Same thing. If somebody wants to steal your car, they'll get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, so Jane Tanner said later on, after the disappearance and everything like that, she said that at around 9:15 she had seen this guy and he was carrying a little kid, and said it wasn't that far from Madeleine's bedroom and he was heading east away from the front of their apartment, which was 5A. Now she thought that he looked like he had dark hair, he was a white guy, but sort of Mediterranean looking, about 5'7", 35 to 40 years old, wearing beige trousers and a dark jacket, and carrying a little girl with kind of pink pajamas with little ruffles on the ankles. And, the girl had bare feet and she looked like she was asleep and it was toddler age.
Does that check out?
Now, here's the thing though. This was kind of considered a big deal at the time. Like the Portuguese police thought this was a big deal because at first they thought that maybe she had been taken by this guy named Robert Murat, who was a Brit, and he lived right around there. It was only about 150 yards from the apartment where they lived. And they said, well, this guy looked like he was walking toward that apartment. Even though that description didn't really fit that guy, because Robert Murat was actually on the Netflix documentary extensively. Like they talked to him for a long time. He had lived in Portugal for quite a while. Him and his mother lived there. And, he was taken in. They said he was a pedophile and all this other kind of stuff. But in the end, they had to clear him. And what ended up happening was that when the investigation was reopened by Scotland Yard in 2013, they actually found the guy who she saw.
Okay.
And that was his daughter.
Okay.
He had picked her up from the night crash,
right,
and she was asleep, so he was carrying her back home.
So the red herring.
So they're pretty sure they know who that guy was and that wasn't the kidnapper. But that kind of, the fact that she said that she saw this person and he was heading, that it kind of like fucked up the investigation a little bit because they thought that she was kidnapped like earlier than she was actually kidnapped. You know what I mean? Because this was 9:15. So there was that whole thing. Now, there was another sighting, and this one is actually more promising. Now, this was, I believe they were an Irish couple. Their name were Martin and Mary Smith. Now, around 10 o'clock, they said that they saw a guy about 500 yards from the McCann's apartment, and he was walking away from the Ocean Club and toward the beach, and he was carrying a 3 to 4 year old girl, and he looked like uncomfortable, like he wasn't used to carrying a kid. They said that struck them as very strange. They said he was about mid-30s, about 5'8", slim to normal build, short brown hair, wearing beige trousers or cream trousers. They said that he didn't look like a tourist, like he looked like someone from around there. So they think that this is maybe a more promising sighting. Because 9:15, that was probably too early. So there was that whole thing. Now, let's go back a little bit to 9:30. Now, Madeleine's mother, Kate, she was supposed to take the next check, which was at 9:30. But she stands up to do it, and then one of their friends, Matthew Oldfield, he says, I'll look in on your kids when I go check on my kids, because they were staying just like right next door, or just one down or something like that. So she said, fine. So he peeks into the house. Now he sees that the bedroom door, the kid's bedroom door, is standing wide open, but he doesn't look far enough in there to see if anyone's in there. So Madeleine could have been gone at this point, but they're not really sure. Because Jerry McCann also said that the door was open, but he said that he closed it back. But not all the way, just kind of like, closed it till it was ajar. Now, he, like I said, Matthew Oldfield, he peeks in, he sees the door is wide open, but he doesn't hear anything and he doesn't, see anything unusual, so he goes back and tells them that everything is fine. Now, 10 o'clock comes around, and Kate, Madeleine's mother, now she says, well, okay, I'm going to take this check. So she goes through the patio door at the back, which, as I said, has been left unlocked. And she also notices that the kid's bedroom door is wide open. Now, she goes to close it, and it pulls shut like a draft. So she kind of freaks out, and she opens the door, and she sees that the window and the shutter are wide open also, and that Madeleine is gone. Now, her little blanket and her little, she had a little stuffed toy that named Cuddle Cat, which was like a little pink kitty cat. And that was still there, but Madeleine was gone. The twins were still asleep in the same room, but the window was wide open, the shutter was wide open, and Madeleine was gone. So Kate, understandably, flips the fuck out. She's running around the apartment, like looking for her. She can't find her. And then she starts running back toward the restaurant. And she says, Madeleine's gone. Someone's taken her.
Now, I forgot. They're on the first floor or the second floor?
This is the ground floor.
The ground floor?
First floor,
okay, so somebody could have gone up to the window and opened it and got in and got out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, as I said, because she said someone's taken her, Portuguese police thought that was suspicious because they're like, how would she know that? It's like, blah, blah, blah. They also said, why did you run off and leave the twins in the apartment when you could have just called from your cell phone? Why didn't you this? Why didn't you that? But I mean, she just noticed that her little girl was missing.
And she freaked out, yeah.
So she probably freaked out and she wasn't, not really thinking all that clearly, I would imagine. So I'm not going to get too, bothered about that.
One thing that could have happened is that little girl woke up and the parents weren't there. And she opened up the window, was yelling out, and then walked out maybe the front door.
Well, they did consider that, but they said, here's the thing. For that to have happened, one, the window and the shutter were very difficult to open. I mean, she was only 4.
She's only 4, right? Yeah, that's right.
Also,
so
if she had left, the front door was locked, so
right.
They didn't think she would be able to have gone out that way. Even if she'd gone out the patio door, they said that the patio door was closed, it was unlocked, but it also had a curtain across it. So it's like she would have had to open the curtain, open the door, close the curtain, close the door, and also there was like a gate on the patio, and there was another gate like down by the street. So she would have had to open that. They did consider the possibility that she had woken up and had wandered off on her own and then had either been taken by somebody just happening by, which seems a little far-fetched, or had accidentally fallen into, like, there was some road work and construction, there was some ditches and things like that. So they did consider that possibility, and then they did, like, look around there, but they couldn't find her.
Yeah, I did that at around that age, about 5. 4, 5. Yeah, I got out of bed and just walked down the street.
Yeah.
Yeah. Neighbors saw me, though. Old lady saw me.
Why did you do that?
I don't know. I was just a little kid.
You don't know?
I was just a little kid. It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
The old lady saw me, you know what I mean? She goes, hey, where you going? And
what's that kid doing?
Walking down the street. Yeah, like 9 o'clock at night.
It's like, I don't know.
She grabbed me and took me back home. It was a neighbor.
That's
she goes, I just found him walking around. Mom was like, get back in the house. What are you doing? I got out of bed and started walking down the street.
That's what you do.
Yeah, it's probably kind of like sleepwalking.
It might have been, yeah.
I don't remember much about it.
And I'm not saying that that's impossible in this situation. Right. I just think that because of the way it was found, since the back door was still closed and the curtain was still drawn and everything like that, it seems unlikely that she would have, because if she had gone out the patio door, then the curtain would still be open, right? I mean, you wouldn't think she would think to pull it back closed, and the gates were still closed. So it just seems not that likely that she wandered off on her own.
Yeah.
And like I said, the window and the shutter were open, and I don't think she would have been able. She was too little to open those, I think. Yeah. So they started I mean, they did like put the alarm out very quickly. They started. The police came at 10:30. The resort started. They have a missing child protocol. Where they try to find out where then everybody went to look for them. Now they had the Portuguese police came. The Policia Judiciara, the PJ is what they call them. They showed up about 1 a.m. Now, they got criticized for this, but they said, okay, well, it took them until about 3 in the morning to secure the apartment. But the thing is that at first, they were just trying to find the little girl. So they were just like running around the apartment, like looking everywhere around the apartment, looking around. So they weren't really treating it at first as though it had been an abduction.
Yeah, just they thought that she did what I did, just wandered out.
Yeah, they were at first operating that she probably just wandered off, and they were just looking to see if they could find her. So, they fucked up some shit later on, but I'm not going to ding them for that because, at first they were just concentrating on finding her. They weren't like necessarily treating it like a crime scene or like an abduction or anything like that. So, I'm not going to get too bothered about them not locking it down, even though, so many people had gone through the apartment by the time that they did make it a crime scene, that at that stage there was really, the evidence that they found in there was pretty much useless because so many cops had been through there and other things too. Now, they did get criticized later on for doing shit like, dusting for fingerprints without wearing gloves and like, things like that. And as I said, there's still a lot of hostility between the British police and the Portuguese police. And, you could kind of see some of that in the Netflix documentary where I think the Portuguese police thought that the Brits kind of came in there. They complained that they were acting like a quote unquote colonial power because they just came in like making fun of them and like how they were doing everything wrong and making fun of how lazy they were and all this kind of stuff. So there was all kind of like they were like butting heads, which is kind of sad because you'd think they should have been working together to find this kid, but they really just weren't doing that. So,
well, I'll tell you what, little kid could just wander out of an apartment.
Yeah.
And a predator could just happen upon him, and the kid becomes a target of opportunity.
Yeah.
But I think it's less likely, statistically. Statistically, if a kid just wanders off, the chances are he's not going to run into some kind of predator.
Yeah.
I think it's more likely that predator saw him the day before and targeted the kid and came in there and got him.
That's what I think. I think they targeted her specifically. Yeah. Like I said, the cops did search, canals, and they searched all the construction areas around there. But the problem is, one thing they didn't do was they didn't do a house-to-house search of the other apartments or even the other like houses and other resorts like right around that area. They didn't do that until much later. They also didn't put up roadblocks until...
Yeah, you're talking about something of big scope, though.
I know, until the following morning. Right. So, and Portugal, where Praia da Luz is, it's not that far from this, from the border with Spain. And they were saying, it would have only taken a few hours to get this girl really far away, like out of the country and really far away. They could have just taken off and taken her. So, the fact that they didn't, close off, that they didn't close off the roads or like try to find people leaving the country or, even do, stuff like they didn't issue a global missing persons report until later on. Like it took like 5 days for them to contact Interpol.
Did they check to see who left those resorts around that time?
See, that's what I mean. I don't know if they did that. So in some ways I can see like, so maybe the British weren't just being like snotty about how lame the Portuguese police were, because it does seem like they didn't do some pretty basic shit.
Because a guy could target her, whisk her out of there, get her into a rental car, and drive back to the European country he came from.
That's what they're saying. And it's like, there was no... And it's like no one... Because what they can do is they can subpoena, like, CCTV footage of, like, various cars leaving the resort and things like that. And they didn't really do that until it was essentially too late. Because, as they know...
And a 3.5-year-old, 4-year-old girl, chances are you can keep her under control. And in a few years, she'd probably forget who she was. Somebody else might be.
Sad but true.
Somebody else might be raising that girl as their daughter.
Honestly, it is as shitty as it sounds, but that's probably the best possible scenario because at least then she'd still be alive and taken care of. Even though that's shitty and she really should be returned to her actual parents. There's a possibility.
It's happened before.
Oh, yeah. And like I said, I think that her parents are probably hoping that that's what happened.
And in a case like that, it might have been a woman.
Yeah.
Because women have stolen babies.
Yeah, true.
To raise them as their own.
Like I said, it's probably would be a lot better if she was taken by a woman. Because
we're assuming that it's a predator. Might have been targeted by a woman who had lost a kid.
Yeah, true.
And said, I want one just like that.
Yeah. But yeah, so like I said, they didn't check CCTV footage of cars that left, that were around there at the time or anything like that. So there was a lot to be desired. They didn't really, because as everyone knows, most people know anything about true crime, but kidnapping or anything like that, it's usually the first 24 to 48 hours. That's when you have the best chance of solving the case or finding the missing person or whatever. And they didn't really get their shit together until, a lot of time had passed. So they were roundly criticized for that.
How are we doing on time?
Let's see. We're at 46 minutes. Actually, let's take a break right now. And when we come back, we will talk some more about the disappearance of Madeleine McCann. Hopefully the kitten will not make it.
She's tearing everything up.
Will make it any worse. She does that. Or every time we record the show now, she just comes in here and she's like, you guys are not looking at me, so I'm just going to make as much noise as possible. Yeah. Try to get your attention.
This is a ritual for her.
It is, yeah.
What the hell? What the hell? You want it? You want it? Okay. All right.
What you doing, little Peanut?
Peanut's gonna get something to eat. That's what she's gonna do.
She's like, no, I'm just gonna sit right here and yawn.
Yawning, huh?
You're so cute.
Okay.
The Faceless Villain, a collection of the eeriest unsolved murders of the 20th century, Volume 2, includes cases spanning the years from 1960 through 1979, featuring such infamous crimes as the triple homicide at Lake Bodom, the family massacre known as the Good Heart Murders, the serial killings of the Zodiac, Bible John, Jack the Stripper, and the Freeway Phantom, the slaughter of dozens of women and girls along the Highway of Tears and the Texas killing fields, and the mysterious death of suspected spy, the Isdal woman, along with dozens of other fascinating and horrifying accounts. Buy it now from Amazon in print, Kindle, or audiobook format. Okay, we're back talking about the disappearance of Madeleine McCann from 2007. Now, shortly after Madeleine disappeared, and this is something that I think the Portuguese police, this is something that made them suspicious of the parents from the outset. This is the fact that, one, the McCanns were they're very attractive people. They were actually quite well-off people. They were both doctors. And they were also quite media savvy. One of the first things they did, there was a huge amount of media. Obviously the British press, but also all the European press, really all around the world, came to Portugal and were doing stories about this little girl. And something that the parents did that the police thought was weird was that they started hiring PR people to deal with all the media. And Jerry McCann was later quoted as saying, I believe it was in a Vanity Fair interview, that he decided from the beginning that he was going to market Madeleine in order to get the word out there, and hopefully it would make it easier for people to find her, which you
that
know,
makes sense to me.
it does. And it's like, I can see why people might think that it seems odd or calculated or something like that. But this is their daughter.
Yeah, they're going to do anything they
and
can.
it's like, if they have the means, the resources, if they know what they're doing, you know, why wouldn't you do that?
Right.
Because, I mean, you know, the more people hear about it in the world, the more likely it is that she's going to be found.
Right.
So,
yeah,
so
and
as I said,
social media hadn't totally taken over at this point either. So, you know, you had to use the old marketing media if you wanted to do that. So, yeah, I think it was a good call. That's what I would have done.
I mean, honestly, that push and the fact that they actually hired like PR people and stuff like that is probably the reason why this is one of the best known missing persons cases, you know, ever, like in modern history, and why that little girl's face is so familiar is because they went on this big, long media campaign and were pretty open with talking to the media, you know, got media in there and stuff like that. Now, the Portuguese police, like I said, they thought it was suspicious. One, also they didn't like it because they thought that all of these media people being there were impeding the investigation. So they thought it was quote unquote counterproductive. So, you know, they didn't really like that either. But, you know, the McCanns just said, look, we're looking for our daughter, so that's what we're going to do. Now, what they first ended up doing, they apparently had some money of their own, but they also had, I believe he was a Scottish businessman who was a millionaire. I think he owned Everest Windows or something like that in the UK. And he actually stepped forward and said, you know, I will fund, you know, I will pay for you to hire investigators and media people, and I will, you know, help you out with any bills that you have and stuff like that. So he essentially became their benefactor. Because he didn't really know them. He just wanted to help because he felt so bad about Madeleine disappearing. The McCanns had also set up a fund called Madeleine's Fund, and that was on the 15th of May, 2007 to, you know, kind of just get money to, you know, do various things and get the word out there. They also had their PR team who would they would essentially like arrange events like for the media to come to. Like they had one where there was like all these balloons released. They sold T-shirts. They visited with the Pope. They were Roman Catholics. You know, so they did all this kind of stuff just to keep her name in the media. And by all accounts, it actually did work because not only were they all over the press in Portugal and Europe, but the British press was all over it. And they said all they had to do was put a story about Madeleine McCann on the front page, and that newspaper would sell, you know, 30,000 extra copies that day. They said even the websites of like Sky News and stuff like that, it's like they would have, you know, the little tabs that said like UK News, World News, and then they had a whole tab that just said Madeleine. You know what I mean? This is how big a story it was. And some people have compared it to like the death of Princess Diana. You know, how, you know, media saturated this story was. And like I said, I think it was probably...
That was a weird time. Remember that?
It was very weird, yeah.
I mean, we live in the United States, and when Diana got killed, it was fucking everywhere here. It
really was.
It was like the American princess got killed.
It was so weird, though.
America doesn't have a fucking princess.
Well, it was
Except
weird.
Leia, Princess Leia. That's the American princess.
Well, it was weird because, I mean...
It was a weird time.
It really was.
It was a weird time.
Well, it just because... I guess because, you know, I was 10 years old, like, when she married Prince Charles, and it was like, but I remember seeing it on TV, and it was like this big, huge deal, and I remember her turning up to see Duran Duran and all this, because I was, you know, I'm really into Duran Duran, and that was like her favorite band, and so she was always going to see them in concert and stuff, so it's like, almost like, I didn't know that much about her, but I was just kind of like, oh, Princess Diana, but,
96?
what, that she...
Yeah.
Oh, I don't remember.
Diana, when she got killed? Okay.
I don't remember. But so it was just kind of one of those things where she's just kind of one of those people that was always kind of like in the background fabric of your life. Yeah. And then when you find out she died like really young, like in a horrible way, it's just really, even though you might not think about her from day to day, like maybe somebody in the UK would, but you know, suddenly to just, she just died in something so mundane as a car crash.
That was a weird period, man. That was the time of like Michael Jackson being around and Kurt Cobain and all that. I was a couple years out of the Army working as a salesman in Wellesley, Massachusetts. I remember listening to them, Howard Stern.
Yeah.
And they would talk about that event. Boy, that was a big deal.
Yeah.
But the media was smaller then, you know. Didn't have to compete against YouTube and the internet, you know.
Well, I think the
So
thing...
they could control your mind a lot easier.
Well, I think the thing that happened with this was that, I mean, there were still, and particularly in the UK, there was a lot of newspapers and they had to compete with each other. So, you know, everybody was like kind of scrambling to put stories about Madeleine on the front page. Yeah. And as time went on, you know, there wasn't a lot of new information about the case. So they thought they would just kind of make it up. You know what I mean? Yeah. just so they could have new stuff, even though it wasn't
selling,
really new
so they wanted to continue to make more profit.
Exactly. And I think some people that even wrote for the paper said that. It's like, we didn't really care if it was true. And if somebody that didn't even know anything about the case had some fucking psychic or something said they had some dream about the case or something, it's like, we printed a story about that because like people would buy the newspaper.
I bet you that drove that family crazy. All these new
I
stories
honestly
all the
cannot
time.
Understand how I mean, I've seen like some recent interviews with them. I watched like a bunch of documentaries. I watched the Netflix documentary. They asked them to be involved, but they didn't want to.
Yeah, they're probably sick of that shit.
And they encouraged all their friends not to do it either. But some of their friends did, but they didn't want to be personally involved, even though they did use clips of them from other sources. But when I saw them like on Crime Watch and all this other kind of stuff, I'm like, how could they stay so sane and like so calm relatively? I mean, they're obviously still really upset, even though it's been a long time. You know, it's been more than 10 years since she disappeared at this point. But after all the shit that they have been through, particularly Kate, because I think she was demonized way more than Jerry was. Because, you know, she's a mom and you didn't do momming right. So, you know what I mean? So, no, they like really attacked her. Like, they talked about, oh, she's too thin. She's not crying enough. She's not smiling enough.
She's not.
Yeah, it's like they said shit like that. It's like everything. They just criticized her. But she's too pretty. She's too this, that, and the other thing. And it's like, you know, oh, she's too emotional. She's not emotional enough. It's like, you know, you can't really win.
No.
And I feel like she kind of got really shit on. So for her to just like kind of keep her composure and keep her shit together, and him too, it's just like, that's kind of amazing to me. So yeah, so there was all this media storm, and it got like a lot worse later on, like I said, especially after like leads dried up and whatnot. 12 days after Madeleine disappeared, the guy I mentioned before, Robert Murat, who actually lived in Portugal, he was a Brit, but he lived in Portugal with his mother, not that far from the Ocean Club. He was made what in Portugal they call an arguido, which is like, quote unquote, a formal suspect. Now, he was pretty much, I think he was only suspected because he had been actually trying to help the police out because he spoke English and he spoke Portuguese. So he was kind of helping with translation and whatnot, but somebody somewhere, I think it was some member of the press, thought that he was a little too interested in the case, or, you know, asked too many questions about it or something, and they thought that was suspicious. So they reported it to the police, and the police basically made him a suspect. So he generally was, and he was interviewed at length on the Netflix documentary. He seems like a very nice man, and it was kind of shitty what happened to him as well. He actually did eventually sue some of the newspapers later on. He did get a settlement for libel, just because they accused him of being a pedophile and stuff like that, which there is actually no evidence of. They searched his house on May 15th, 2007. They drained his swimming pool. They went through his phone, his computer, all his videotapes, all that other kind of stuff. They searched his garden with fucking sniffer dogs and all this other kind of shit. Also, one of his... they call him his associate. I don't know if it was like his friend or like a business partner or something like that. And I think this was a guy named Sergei Malenka. He was interviewed either on the Netflix documentary or some other documentary I saw about it too. That guy, somebody set his car on fire and wrote fala, which I guess is Portuguese for speak.
Yeah. Yeah.
They spray painted it on the sidewalk next to the torched car.
Fala doesn't necessarily mean speak. You know, I grew
what
up in
what
Brazil,
can it mean?
Fala is, literally it means speak, but in slang it's more like what's up.
Huh.
Like what's up.
Well, I kind of think in this
talk, man, what's up? Yeah,
that's in this context it probably means talk, because they wanted, hey, like tell everybody what you know about the Madeleine Mccann disappearance, because obviously you know something.
Okay.
So that's what I'm thinking that meant. But there was actually no evidence, as I said, that either Robert Murat or Sergei Malenka knew anything about the disappearance. Like I said, pretty much the only reason they suspected him was because he lived nearby and they thought that he was too interested in the case or something, even though he was kind of helping with the case because he was translating. So whatever. He was eventually, dismissed as a suspect in 2008. So now his mother, though, who also lived in the same house, like I said, they lived right by the Ocean Club. She said that she had seen a woman in like a purple or a plum colored blouse, and that she had been outside the McCann's apartment the night that Madeleine disappeared, and that she was acting really weird. Now she's, as far as I know, this woman, this is Robert Murat's mother, Jenny. She is the only one that saw this particular woman. If other people saw her, I'm not really sure. But so I don't know how seriously to take that. But there was that thing. So like you said, it's possible that it could have been a woman, but as far as I know, she's the only one that said she saw a woman hanging out near the apartment. Now, there were a bunch of other sightings, though, of suspicious men hanging around the apartment the same day as Madeleine disappeared and in the days prior. So, as I said before, in the weeks prior to Madeleine disappearing, there had been many, many, many break-ins at the Ocean Club and other places. And the people had broken in, like, by opening the window and climbing in through the window and stealing stuff. So the possibility remains that someone was trying to burglarize the house and, you know, saw Madeleine there and said, oh, I'm going to take that too while I'm in here. But like you said, I kind of feel like it's unlikely. More, yeah. Now, another interesting thing that had happened, like a few days before, you know, that had been going on, was that several people at the Ocean Club and in that area had reported that there were these guys who kept coming up to tourists and asking for donations for an orphanage in this town nearby. Now, when they investigated later on, this town that they were talking about didn't have an orphanage in it.
Scam.
So, yeah, so they think there was these I think it was 3 or 4 different guys that were reported by several different people. And they said, yeah, they either would come to the door of the apartment and go, oh, I'm raising money for this orphanage or this whatever. And some of the people they said were really pushy. And although some of them they said were kind of polite and they was just come up and, oh, we're raising money for this, that, and the other thing. So that was reported many, many times. And so because of that, police were saying, well, maybe that was like their reconnaissance kind of thing. Maybe it was an unrelated scam. Maybe they were just trying to get money just for some other reason. But this could have been them kind of like casing the joint, looking for, like I said, might have been pedophile, might have been, you know, for whatever reason. So, as I said, like I said, these were several different men. I think there were 3 or 4 different ones that were reported. One of them was a blonde man who several people reported as being quote unquote ugly, with lots of pimples. So several people reported that guy, and there was also a different guy that was like dark haired.
Imagine his ass didn't show up. We're looking for a blonde, pimply, ugly guy.
Yeah.
You know, please report to your local police department.
Yeah, he's like, what? I'm not like, ugly.
No, it couldn't be me. No way they're talking about me.
Yeah, you know that's probably what he thought. He's like, what? I'm not ugly. Yeah. I'm the most handsomest man ever. Yeah, so, as I said, there were several reports of just weird looking dudes like hanging around there. Some people said that they had seen guys like watching that particular apartment like the day of the disappearance or the day before. I
don't buy any of that shit, man.
Well, it could be, but then again, you know, there were so many people hanging around because, like I said, this was a tourist resort. There was tons of people. So it could have just been somebody standing around completely innocently.
Whoever grabbed this kid felt fully comfortable to do so.
Yeah.
Which meant that they thought they were unseen.
Yeah.
All right. And that they were above being a suspect. That was somebody that creeped in there with ninja skills and got him.
Yeah.
So I don't think anybody saw this person. If they were seen, they wouldn't have gone in there. That's what I think. And there's a good chance it was a woman.
Possibly, although, like I said, as far as I know, Robert Murat's mother was the only one that said she saw a woman acting weirdly around there.
I just find this shit very odd that this body wasn't found.
Yeah.
Okay.
Although it could be anywhere. I mean, it's Portugal, and it's like no one really, they didn't block anything off for several hours, several days. So if somebody just wanted to snatch her and get her out of the country or take her somewhere else in Portugal even, you could do that very easily. They would never know where to start looking. Or what if they dumped her in the ocean?
A lot of times that stuff washes up, though. Although she was small,
Yeah.
I just think that there's a chance that somebody took that kid to keep that kid.
Yeah.
You know?
Maybe. I mean, like I said, that's probably at this stage. That's probably best case scenario.
That's
'cause
the
at least
right
she's
age.
Still alive.
That's the right age if you want to take a kid to raise on your own.
Well, yeah,
It's
and
about the right age.
and there have been there was one guy that was on the please don't step on that, Pookie.
Come on, got the cat. Okay.
There was one guy that was on the Netflix documentary, and he was saying that, you know, in a lot of cases where the child kidnapped is that young, that usually means that they want them to keep them.
Yeah.
Not always, obviously. Sometimes
And
they're
if they
murdered
wanted to
as
rape
well.
and kill him, I think the body would have been found real close, like in a back alley, just walking
maybe.
distance.
Maybe.
Because I think they would have felt uncomfortable really going anywhere with that kid for any period of time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They just do what they got to do and kill the kid and then move on.
Yeah.
Man, I just got a weird feeling that this kid might be alive.
I hope she is.
I hate to say that, in case, some of the family members are listening, because they probably have this shit resolved in their mind, you know what I mean? They want to just maybe think, well, the kid's dead. Statistically, you'd probably say that the kid is dead. But there's something weird about this case. I'm just saying,
like I said, because she was so little, and because I don't know, I just do feel like if somebody, it feels like a kid that small, they would usually take them.
The kid was little. The kid was pretty. The kid's dead body was never found.
Yeah.
This was in a very nice area.
Yeah.
Okay. Man, that's a perfect scenario to steal a kid that you wanted to keep.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. And that, like I said, that possibility has been considered.
Right.
And I think at this stage that even her parents are hoping that that's what happened because, at least she'd still be alive. At least she'd still be taken care of, rather than just being like murdered and left somewhere, because that would be more horrible.
It was a kid from good genetic stock. It's a high-class family of doctors. You know what I mean? It's not the type of scenario, where this is... It's like a high-value kid, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and...
If you wanted to steal a kid to raise as your own child, that's the kind you want to steal.
And like I said, I think they even, that guy from the Missing and Endangered Children organization.
Yeah.
I think he was on Netflix. I think he said something very similar
Basically
to that.
saying that,
or
yeah.
someone said something similar to that on the documentary that, this would have been a high-value child.
Yeah.
It's a shitty thing to say, but it's true.
Yeah, the people that steal them think of them as that
Think
way.
of them that way. So, so it's very possible that she might still be alive.
Good-looking parents with good educations and jobs, taken from a real nice resort. It's almost kind of like whoever stole this kid was the same class.
Yeah.
They don't want a junkie kid,
Yeah.
from the lower class. They want one of their own, a high-class kid to raise as their own.
Yeah.
That's what I'm seeing. That's what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to put myself into the shoes of somebody who's stealing a kid.
Yeah.
And how you're going to look at that, And that's just what I'm seeing. I'm going to agree with that guy, whoever it was who said that. But that's what I'm seeing, too.
Yeah.
And I just find it very strange that this kid's body wasn't found. All that stuff's kind of lining up for me. You know what I mean? This is a high-class resort with a bunch of foreigners in it. All right? The parents were doctors. The kid was good-looking little girl, blonde and everything.
Yeah.
The body never found. No signs of violence on the other children. They were left there to live. It's almost kind of like somebody said, hey, they already got twins.
Yeah.
They can give that one up. I need that one. And they take that one. I'm thinking it might have been a woman. See? They're focusing in on these pervy men. How much you want to bet this is a woman who lost a child?
Yeah, well, like I said, at this point, that's probably best case scenario.
I got a feeling that that's what it was.
Yeah.
I got no proof. That's just the feeling I have.
Yeah.
This doesn't sound like a murder to me.
Yeah, maybe not. I don't know. We'll get into that a little bit later. But all right, so
Yeah.
about a month later, as I said, now at first, the Portuguese police were suspicious of the McCanns. The British police, not so much. But then it kind of started getting to a point where people started highlighting like inconsistencies in their stories, like not big deal inconsistencies, but you know, Jerry couldn't remember whether he poked his head in the front door or the back door. You know, it's just little shit like that.
That's
you
shit
know,
that cops do.
that's what I mean. So, you know, and there was stuff about, oh, could the, you know, shutters have been open from the outside or do they have to be open from the inside? It's like, you know, the thing with the window open and all this other kind of shit. You know, so I don't know, like, so the Portuguese press, on June 30th, they published this article that was called The Madeleine Case, A Pact of Silence. Now, this was the first case, because I think what the Portuguese police were saying, that they were insinuating, or maybe they were just saying this outright, that they didn't think the McCanns killed Madeleine on purpose, but they thought that she had died accidentally in the apartment and that then them and all their friends had conspired to cover it up.
Ugh.
Which to me
It's
seems
far-fetched as fuck.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
But okay. I'm just saying what their feeling was that these two were doctors. You know, Madeleine had said something about, why didn't you come when me and my brother cried last night? So they were thinking maybe they drugged the kids to get them to sleep, and then they gave Madeleine too much and she died, and they didn't want anyone to know about it.
That's
so then
ridiculous.
they hid the body for a while, and then they disposed of it later on, and then they told everybody that it was an abduction.
That's cops
Which
telling
to
stories.
me seems outlandish. And I have to say right here, the main head of the investigation, the Portuguese investigation, that guy, what was his name? Amaral, whatever his name was. They interviewed him extensively on the Netflix documentary, and he later wrote a book where he put forward this whole thing. Now, he was kicked off the case, and he was involved in some other shit. Like, I'm not saying that, okay, allegedly, there was a case later on that was unrelated to the Madeleine McCann case where a suspect was allegedly beaten into a false confession, and even though he wasn't there, he supposedly knew about it, and he got in trouble for that. And kind of, I don't think he got kicked off the force, but he for sure got kicked off the Madeleine McCann investigation. They interviewed him on the Madeleine McCann Netflix documentary, and he seemed a little bit like a crazy person, allegedly. I'm just saying, he just seemed like he really, really wanted this shit about they accidentally killed Madeleine and then covered it up and kept the body for a month or something like that, and then like later disposed of it.
I don't buy that. Not for
no,
one
I don't
thing.
either. And like, so it seemed like he had kind of decided that that's what had happened, and then he just didn't want to like brook any dissension on that issue. Because
sounds like somebody trying to wrap up the case, if you ask me.
yeah, it just seems really crazy.
No.
So the Portuguese press is running this stuff. Then the UK press, you know, the tabloid press starts running stuff too, because like I said, they needed some stories. And then they're just like making shit up about the McCanns, like all over the place. Oh, they were all swingers.
Yeah.
You know, they were drugging their kids to
yeah.
get them to sleep. It's like, you know, they had formed a pact of silence about the fucking shit. It's like, why? It's like that is the stupidest.
What that sounds like to me is a bunch of
thing that I've ever heard.
mediocre policemen who were under a lot of pressure to solve this case, and they're trying to come up with some way of explaining this case away. And because they didn't want to just say, well, somebody took it, we don't know who it is.
Yeah.
They didn't want to admit that. So they come up with some clever shit like that. That sounds fucking stupid as hell. No, that's not what happened.
No, I don't think that's what happened either.
No.
And honestly, okay, now here's something.
An unseen person targeted the kid and snatched the kid at an opportune time and was able to get out of there without even being seen or attracting any attention. I'm going to say it's a woman.
Yeah.
A woman walking out of there with a little girl it would be invisible.
Yeah.
No one would see that.
But I'm saying that what I was going to say was that the reason that this whole, you know, oh, Madeleine died in an accident in the apartment and, you know, they covered it up and stuff like that. A lot of that came from what happened a little bit later on when actually the British police, because they were kind of, like I said, the British police, particularly in Leicestershire and which was where the McCanns were from. And the Portuguese police were sort of working together, but grudgingly. I believe that the Portuguese police had given the British team like an office, but they really did not like each other, and it seemed like there was like just constant butting heads going on, like I said, because I think the Portuguese police were thinking, oh, the parents totally did it, and the British police were thinking, I don't think so. But, you know, like they're like arguing about it, like the Portuguese were like, well, the British didn't even want to like consider the possibility that the parents might have been involved, and, you know, the British police were like, dude, we have like this high-tech like shit where we're putting all this shit in the national computer database and all this other stuff, and you guys just have files and boxes. What the fuck is that about? So, you know, they were just having this whole like fucking conflict the whole entire time, which was kind of sad. So, but what they did, the British police actually brought in two a cadaver sniffing dog and a blood sniffing dog. Now, these were some interesting findings, I must say. They went into this quite a bit on the Netflix documentary. So these two dogs, which were named Keela and Eddie.
Keela? You're talking about tequila.
Keela.
Keela.
Yeah, her
Yeah,
name's Keela, but it's spelled different.
If I get drunk enough, that's how I'm going to say it.
Yeah. Well, that's the dog's name.
Drinking Keela right now.
Yeah. So, Martin Grime was their handler. Now, Keela was she was a blood sniffing dog, and what she was supposed to do was if she smelled blood, she was supposed to just like, she didn't bark, she would just put her nose by where the blood scent was, and then she would like freeze, you know what I mean? That was what she was trained to do. And then Eddie, who was the other dog, was a cadaver dog. Now he was trained to bark only in the presence of the smell of a human cadaver, and apparently for nothing else, because that's how they train these dogs.
Yeah, they give them cocaine when they do it.
Yeah.
That's how they do it.
So what they did was they brought these two dogs to the McCann's apartment in July, the end of July 2007. Now this is, let's see, May, June, this is more than 2 months after Madeleine disappeared. So they bring the dogs there. Now, both dogs alerted behind the sofa in the living room, meaning blood and cadaver. They didn't find any alerts outside or anything like that. So they also, I think one of them also alerted to the closet in the bedroom that Jerry and Kate had been using. One of the dogs also alerted on Cuddle Cat, which was Madeleine's little stuffed toy. The dogs also alerted on the car that the McCanns had rented, but they hadn't rented it until I think 3 weeks after the disappearance. So I don't know who had been.
Dogs are fucked up.
Well, here's the thing too. And this is something that only just occurred to me while I was researching this case. Both Kate and Jerry were doctors. So the fact that maybe something like a piece of their clothing or something like that might have smelled like a dead body or blood.
Yeah.
That could have been from work.
Well,
because it didn't wash out. Because dogs can smell.
Does old dried up blood smell like a dead body?
No, well, there were two different dogs.
Yeah, I know that,
one
but let
was
me
for
ask you
blood
this.
and one for.
But if blood is around for too long, does it start to smell like a dead body? Could
I
that
don't know.
set that dog off?
See, that's what I mean. I think it's
I
possible.
know this shit. I ain't know
And honestly, the thing about it, and even they talked to Martin Grime, who was the dog's handler. They talked to him a lot on the Netflix documentary, and he was saying, the dogs, it's like it doesn't prove anything. We just use that like as we need
hints.
further investigation.
Right.
Like maybe there was a dead body in here, maybe this, that, and the other thing. And another thing too is that even though the dog alerted on the car, one, they hadn't rented that car until 3 weeks after Madeleine disappeared. And like I said, that's why the Portuguese police were all like, oh, well, they kept the body somewhere for 3 weeks or a month, and then later they took it someplace and got rid of it, which to me, it's like, where the fuck were they keeping it? I don't know. But like I said,
cops telling stories.
Yeah, it just seemed a little far-fetched to me. But the thing about it is that the DNA that they found in the rental car was inconclusive, in that it could have been the DNA from either one of the parents or one of the other kids. You know what I mean? Because they all share similar DNA. So it wasn't necessarily Madeleine's DNA. It wasn't conclusive enough to say that it was Madeleine's DNA. So there was no, and the problem too is that there's a language barrier. Some of the reports were generated in English, translated into Portuguese, and then translated back into English for the press. And also another thing too, and there was a woman who she wrote for a Portuguese newspaper. She was a Portuguese newscaster, and she said, they were telling us, like, the police were feeding us this information that we later found out was totally wrong.
Right.
She's like, they told us 100% DNA match. We found Madeleine's DNA in the apartment. We found Madeleine's DNA in the car. And that was not true. Right. She's like, I don't know if they did that on purpose or if it was just like a mistranslation from the reports.
Might have been a mix-up between cops.
Yeah, that too. So it's like, she's like, but I feel really bad because she's like, I feel like I contributed because I went on Portuguese TV and said 100% that's her DNA, implying that the parents did it and killed her in the apartment.
Thing. What's the likelihood of some parents killing their own child, having the body stashed away in the hotel, and then call the police?
And see, and the thing about it,
that doesn't make any damn sense.
If you were going to do that, one, yeah, why would you call the police? Two, why would you get media PR? Everybody was crawling up their asses within hours.
Within hours. That's not what happened.
They could not go anywhere.
They were looking for the little girl because they didn't know where the little girl was.
Yeah.
They didn't have time to even get rid of that body.
That's what I mean. They could not go anywhere without a million press people and police shit at seeing them. If you saw, like I said, the Netflix documentary showed like a lot of the news footage of the time and stuff outside of there because they stayed in Portugal for quite a while before they went back to the UK because they were cooperating with the investigation. And it's like they're in the house. It's like there's just a huge like mass of press like around. They couldn't go anywhere outside.
And staff and witnesses saw the little girls hours before they reported her missing. There wasn't time to get rid of that body.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So I just think that
somebody took that little girl.
I think that the whole story about that is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't blame like the dog handler or the dog. I mean, there may well have been. This was a rental apartment. It wasn't their house. Other people rented this apartment. It was a resort.
What they do is they get dogs addicted to cocaine. All right. And when they find cocaine, they give them a cocaine treat. And then they start putting the cocaine next to bodies, or then they put cocaine next to blood.
Yeah.
All right. And they finally wean the dog off of needing the cocaine to target on. They start targeting on the cadaver. They find the cadaver, they give the dog the cocaine.
Yeah.
But there's problems with that system. You know what I mean? The dogs sometimes will just signal on something because they want some damn cocaine.
Yeah.
Okay, so, well, this is close to this is close. Give me the cocaine.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing.
And like I said, there's so much, and I think even the handler said this a little or said something like this, like on the documentary. He's like, the dogs, this is just, something that's like, well, this warrants further investigation. It's like, just because the dog signals, oh, there's blood here, or there's cadaver smell. It's like, one, that wasn't their house. It was a rental apartment. That wasn't their car. It was a rental car. They didn't even rent it until 3 weeks after she disappeared. So I just feel like at 2 and 3, they were doctors, which means they could have had cadaver smell or blood smell on some of their clothing, which doesn't really wash out because dogs have a really good sense of smell. They could smell that like much later on. So there's too many. I just don't think. And the report itself, which I read parts of in the original English, not after it had been translated to Portuguese and then translated back into English, was basically like, we can't make any determination for this. It is too inconclusive.
Yeah, and the dog could lie, too. Dog could lie and be overzealous trying to get the reward.
Yeah.
I mean,
And it wasn't just the Portuguese press that said this shit either. I mean, it's like some of the British press even said, some of the headlines were corpse in McCann car, car DNA is 100% Maddie's. That was not true.
The dog signaled behind the couch, though, in the hotel room.
Yeah.
What could you hide behind the couch?
Both dogs. Yeah, in the living room.
Yeah,
that wasn't even where she was taken from.
So maybe there was a dead mouse behind there sometime in the past. Or maybe there's something like that.
Yeah, technically the dogs were only supposed to do human cadaver, blah blah blah. But it's like, you don't know. You don't know what kind of.
Maybe somebody pissed in the closet. Man told him, said it was okay.
Man said
man said he could. And then, you know what I mean, and it started smelling funky, and then the dog said, yeah, there's something here. Give me the coke.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I mean, it's possible. And like I said, It just seemed,
Not
but I'm just saying the fact that the dogs did that really fed into the Portuguese police going, see, we were right. You know, we did say it was the McCanns, and then they invented this whole scenario of how they'd killed the kid accidentally and then covered it up, and somehow they all knew about it. And I'm just like that would happen. Like, you could get 7 of your friends to go, hey, let's
hide this.
let's
hide
keep
this
it
out.
super secret that we accidentally killed our kid, and now we're gonna hide the body. And
Cops are tripping.
Yeah, that's crazy. And I'm not saying it's like, yeah, crazy shit happens sometimes. It's just very, 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 very unlikely. I think the most likely scenario is that somebody was hanging around there, saw her, and was like, I'm going to take that kid.
Yeah.
Then climbed in the fucking window and took her. When they knew that no one was going to be around.
And I got a weird hunch it was a woman.
It's possible.
I think it was a woman that lost a child. That's what I'm thinking.
Well,
and then she went out to try to find the best child she could get. And that's what she saw.
Yeah. And I mean, as I said,
if you're going to steal a child, you're going to steal a good one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you're to keep it as just... That's happened many times. There have been women that have stolen babies from hospitals.
Yeah, I know.
So, you know, it happens.
Yeah.
And it's not reported as often. They don't make a big deal about it. I think it's women that have lost children right after they give birth to children. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They have weird hormonal stuff going on. I think they sometimes even
postpartum depression.
Yeah, I think they forgive them for it sometimes.
Well, because
for stealing other kids and shit, because they catch them a lot.
Yeah, they catch them.
They
don't forgive them necessarily. You still get in trouble, but it's like, it's more understandable because you're not doing it like a pedophile would do. Oh, I'm going to kidnap this kid and then rape him and kill him.
Yeah.
She's kidnapping it because she lost one and she wants another one.
Now,
I mean, it's still shitty, but you can understand it more.
Yeah. Well, I think you know, they're in real bad depression and they want a kid back right now to replace the one that they lost.
Yeah, so they're not necessarily
thinking rationally. And I got a feeling that something like that happened. I just got a weird hunch, man.
Yeah, it's a possibility, sure.
I just got a weird hunch.
Like I said, I kind of hope that happened because at least she's still alive.
Because I would think that a woman would have a greater chance of getting out of that scene and not being
without
noticed
anybody
seeing.
With because I mean, obviously it's always gonna be more suspicious to see a dude.
See women walking by all the time with kids. I don't even fucking think about it.
Well, yeah, because you just assume that's
it's just such a normal sight.
It's weirder to see a dude walking around.
And if you see a dude, or you see some people dressed in dumpy clothes with fucking plastic shopping bags, you don't even see them. They become invisible. Do you know that?
Yeah.
That's a CIA trick.
Yeah.
Is to fucking carry some plastic shopping bags. Nobody will see you.
Yeah.
It's weird, huh?
Yeah.
Or walk around with a damn clipboard. We can walk around a clipboard and do anything. You've got a clipboard in your hand. People think you know what you're doing, like you're an authority figure. Did you know that?
Well, I see a person with a clipboard and I just think they're at the mall and they want to like fucking. So I'm just trying to get away from that person. Yeah. So I do notice
walk around
them.
the mall with a clipboard. You'll just.
I do notice them in the sense that I want to get away from them because I'm like, no, I'm not doing a fucking.
But it's like camouflage. You don't see that person.
Yeah.
You won't remember them. I'm just saying. With a coffee cup and with a coffee cup and a clipboard.
Yeah.
You will become invisible.
Pro tip.
Yeah.
But like you said, I mean, when you see a dude walking around with a kid, that looks more suspicious than a woman walking around with a kid.
Yeah, and that kid could be screaming and kicking, and nobody will notice it.
Well, yeah, because she'd be like, oh, she's being a brat today.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all you'd have to do.
And I just got a weird feeling that that's what happened.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Well, yeah, like I said, that's totally possible. And, like I said, Robert Brat's mom said she saw a woman acting suspiciously around that apartment on that day.
Because it's just... I don't think a guy could get out of there with that, you know what I mean, with a 4-year-old and not be...
I don't know. It does happen. I mean...
It'd have to be at the right time. What time did she supposedly come out missing? What time of night was it?
She was noticed to be missing about 10 p.m.
Still too early.
Yeah.
It would have to be like a pre-dawn raid. 4:30 to 5:30.
Yeah.
When people are asleep. That's when you would do it. You know what I mean? That's the dead of the night. A woman might get away with it, though, at 10.
Although climbing in a window? Because that window was open.
Was the front door open?
No. No, the front door was locked.
The
back door was unlocked, but it was closed when they came in. But the window was open and the shutter was open. So obviously whoever took her climbed in the window and climbed out the window, I'm thinking. Or they climbed in the window and then went out with her through the back door.
Could be a
The patio
possibility
door.
that a woman might tap on the glass and tell a little girl to open the window.
Yeah, that's also
That your
possible.
mom is calling you type of deal, and the little girl opens the window and then she just grabs her.
Yeah, that could be too. Because that's, a lot of kidnappers do that kind of shit. It's like, oh, your mom told me to come get you.
And a little girl might believe a woman before she would believe a man.
Well, yeah,
I'm just saying,
women
I
don't
mean, I
usually
wasn't
do
there.
nothing. So
I got an alibi. I was here at that time.
you had an
I had nothing to do with it.
Well, no one
No,
said
I'm
you
just
did.
saying.
You
that,
weren't even
I'm
in
just trying to
Portugal
see
at
it in
the
my
time.
mind. I'm trying to see it in
Yeah.
my mind. And I think it might have been a woman.
Yeah.
I think so.
It would explain why, no one really saw anything and why she hasn't been found.
It just explains a lot to me.
Yeah. True.
Wouldn't it be something like the last time when I called original Night Stalker?
Yeah.
I called it.
Yeah.
Who that was? That was a cop.
That he was a cop.
All right. Wouldn't that be some shit? It's a couple years from now. Fucking boom! They find that little girl. And it was a woman.
Man, I hope they do find her.
Yeah. I just got a feeling that a woman did this.
I have to say though, and it's like I think they brought this up a little bit on the Netflix show, and a couple of people that have written a book about it, they were also on there, were talking about this. They're like, they were kind of trying to, I mean, I guess they weren't trying to explain it because it's kind of obvious, but why the Madeleine McCann case is so famous when like other kids that disappeared from Portugal or from Britain or something are like barely remembered. But everybody knows who Madeleine McCann is. I'm like, one might have been because she was a cute, pretty little white girl who disappeared while they were on holiday. Maybe a lot of people could relate to that. Also because, like I said, her parents hired PR people and splashed her face all over everything. And like I said, why wouldn't you do that? If you had the resources and the know-how, I mean, you want your kid found, right? I mean, that's kind of the main priority. So that's what you would do.
I don't think this was a man that did this that wanted to kill kids. If he wanted to kill kids, he would have killed those twins when he jumped in that window to get that girl.
Yeah.
I mean, you could have.
Yeah.
If he was a dude that just liked killing kids, he would have killed those twins, and then taken that girl somewhere and killed them, or killed her right there too.
Yeah.
I think it was a woman that was trying to replace a lost child.
Yeah.
And she was like, these people got 3. I'm not going to separate those twins, though. I'm going to take this older one.
Yeah.
I like this one. They can keep those twins.
But
I think it was something like that.
I should say, though, that after a while, because actually the Portuguese police they kind of closed the case in 2008, which was like a year after the disappearance, in the sense that they're still sort of investigating it, but they said Robert Murat, they dismissed him as a suspect. They dismissed the McCanns as a suspect. But then in 2013, Scotland Yard got involved, and they kind of went more along the lines of, some pedophile or robbery gone wrong. And they put out a new sketch of the person that Irish couple had seen at 10 p.m. The man that was carrying the kid, like, toward the beach. So I'll try to find a picture of it, but they actually put up what they would call an e-fit, which I guess is like an electronic, composite sketch of the person that this couple had seen carrying a kid toward the beach on that night at about 10 p.m. They're investigating that individual as the dude that took her. So that's kind of the direction they're going.
Well, that's them. I don't agree.
Well, like I said, it's Scotland Yard, though.
Right.
I mean, and as I said, yes, one person did report a woman hanging around there acting weird, but as far as I know, that's the only person that has reported a woman hanging around there. Everyone else reported weird men hanging around there. And also there was, they did actually pull cell phone records from that time because they can do that. And there were these 3 guys who were all on their cell phones in that area, like right around that time, and they all worked there. And so they they interviewed all those guys who said that they weren't involved, but one of them, I think, was arrested later for breaking into apartments at this particular place. There was another guy who I don't think he was one of the cell phone people, but he had actually been arrested also for breaking into a place because he had like a drug habit and he was like breaking in, like trying to get money. And he was also suspected of raping little kids, like little sexual assault and stuff like that, even though he died. He's dead now, but his widow said, "Oh, he was exonerated because the DNA wasn't the same."
Usually
or something but
usually a burglar's just a junkie. He's trying to get into a window and find some cash or something he can pawn, so he can get what he needs. You know what I mean? They're not really interested in kids. I don't think I don't think this was a burglary. This kid was targeted.
yeah, like I said, I think most people do think that.
This wasn't something where, oh, I'm just breaking in and, oh, hey kids, how you doing? Hey little girl, come with me. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah. Now there was in March of 2014, Scotland Yard put out another, some more information about this guy who apparently between 2004 and 2006, there were 4 incidents involving British families in this same area. 2 of them were at the Ocean Club, the same place, and 2 of them were in other resorts in Praia de Luge. He was actually suspected of sexually assaulting 5 different girls, little white girls, aged 7 to 10, in their beds. So they're not sure where this guy's from. He could speak English, but they said he had a foreign accent, although I don't know what country he was from. He supposedly had short, dark hair, tan skin, and 3 of the victims said that he had a distinctive smell. I don't know what that was. Yeah, I guess he was stinky.
But the thing is, he didn't kill any of
them. Not that they know of.
And he didn't take them anywhere.
But he was believed that he sexually.
If that happened to this girl, where's the body? Yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
Well, yeah, no, I know.
Where's the body? It just doesn't smell right to me. I think they're barking up the wrong tree. I think this was a woman.
But there were some people that were suspected of similar sexual assaults of little girls in their beds in that same area.
Right.
At around that time period. So I'm just saying that's another...
Right.
So it's not a crazy possibility.
But they weren't taken and they weren't killed. And if they...
That they know of.
If they know of. But the thing is that if this girl was killed, where's the body? And that's the thing.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying...
Typically the body would be found nearby. Not even really concealed. You know what I mean? It happens all the time. Yeah. Usually it's within a few miles and it's just, out in a wood line somewhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're not really hidden,
Well,
because I think the guys that dump the bodies actually kind of want them to be found. They just don't want to be seen dumping them.
Right.
I just, they don't care enough to hide them that much, I don't think. So I think this girl there's a good chance I think this girl's alive. Being raised by somebody.
Yeah,
she probably has no idea.
Yeah, maybe not.
Yeah.
Although, like I said, you'd think that she'd be like, see her face splashed everywhere and be like, hey, that's me.
She might not recognize herself at 4, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, she'd be a teenager now.
Yeah. And if she has a good cover story from the mother that's raising her, you know what I mean? May not suspect anything. I don't know.
Yeah.
But what about her twins? They're old now. They've grown up. Do they remember anything?
No, but they were little. They were super little. And they slept through the whole thing. In fact, they slept through her being taken, and they also slept through most of the people running around in the apartment, looking for her and shit like that. They didn't, so they don't seem to know anything.
Right.
But, yeah. So later on, and there's actually if you look, there's a Wikipedia page about the disappearance of Madeleine Mccann. There's also a separate Wikipedia page about all of the reported sightings of her after she disappeared. Now, most of these were investigated and were found to be without merit because like I said, a case this high profile, obviously everybody's going to call, hey, I saw this little blonde girl in a store or something like that, and they have to investigate it, obviously. So they do. Most of the time, it seemed like 80-90% of the time, they realized that was, this person's daughter that they saw them with, and, it wasn't her. But there have been sightings of her pretty much all over the place. Other places in Portugal. There were a bunch in Morocco. There were some in Spain. There were some just everywhere. So there's a whole page of those. So I'm not going to go into all of that. But if you want to go look, there's a whole Wikipedia page, like I said, just sightings of Madeleine McCann. Look it up. And there's just like a whole fucking thing. People have just seen her all over the place. As I said, most of them have been investigated and most of them were not her. But, as of this date, it's like there's really not any more information about it. It seems like most of the information that's come out lately, every time there's an anniversary, everybody wants to run a story about it. So they'll kind of dredge up any old nothing that somebody somewhere said that doesn't really know anything. But that seems to be where it stands. They have no idea, who took her, where she is, if she's dead or alive. And it just seems like there's private investigators working on the case, but they don't seem to have found out much of anything either, even though they've been investigating sightings of her. One of them even flew to Morocco to investigate some sites and then found out it was like some other kid.
I mean, man, that case is awful cold.
I know, but, it's cold, but I've written about a few cases that were way older than this that were solved. You know what I mean? And I feel like one this high profile, it's still possible that it could be solved. You know what I mean? It only happened in 2007, which was, it was 12 years ago, but some cases from 30 years ago have been solved.
I think there's a good chance that this girl's alive.
Well, like I said, I hope you're right.
I think there's a good chance.
And I'm sure her parents hope that you're right.
I think there's a good chance that...
because how awesome would that be if it turned out that someone had just taken her because they thought she was pretty and wanted to raise her and she's still alive someplace.
I think there's a good chance.
And they took care of her. That would be awesome. Like I said,
there's something
best case
about
scenario.
this situation, that makes me think that where it happened, victimology, what the scene of the abduction looked like. The twins were unharmed. No body found. I got a weird feeling that a woman did this.
Yeah, possible.
To replace a lost child.
Yeah.
And I got a feeling that the child was targeted because it looked like the woman. So she passed it off as her child.
Yeah.
That's just what I'm thinking. I mean, that's just because she could get out of there without attracting attention.
Yeah.
And where's the body? Typically, the body's close. Yeah. They never found it.
Yeah. Like I said, I hope you're right. But, as I said, over the years, because of the media attention surrounding this case and the fact that the media have kind of said a lot of horrible things about the McCanns without any proof, the McCanns have actually sued several newspapers and won several settlements, as has Robert Barat, who, like I said, in the press was accused of being a pedophile without any evidence. So he actually successfully sued several newspapers as well. So there have been a lot of libel lawsuits in that whole thing. Also, there was a whole thing about, like I said, that Portuguese investigator that originally started on the case and then he got kicked off the case, Gonçalo Amaral or whatever his name is. Yeah, like I said, he tried to write a book about it. I think it was called The Truth of the Lie or something, where he was, putting forth his theory that, Madeleine got killed in the apartment and they try to cover it up and blah, blah, blah. The McCanns actually sued him to stop the book from being sold because he wrote a book and it sold like a shit ton of copies. It was translated in all these languages and they're like, hey, knock that off. It's like, you don't have any basis for making any of these claims. And they at first won the lawsuit, but then it was overturned. And then there was all this other... So they've been, like, suing each other back and forth, like, for 10 years because this guy's just... And like I said, they interviewed him extensively on the Netflix documentary, and he seems like a nut job, allegedly. I'm just saying...
Wasn't so crazy. He was probably making money with that book.
He did.
He's just a dick.
I'm just saying, yeah, he really, really seemed... I mean,
that's a dick move.
Yeah, just from seeing his interviews on he just seemed like a tool. I'm just saying, allegedly.
Sounded like he's just trying to exploit.
He's allegedly a crazy
He's just trying to exploit a situation, make some money.
Yeah, and the scenario that they came up with seems to me just way too far-fetched. Way too far-fetched to have actually taken place. I just think the simplest scenario is if someone took her and either raised her
Or
as their
killed
own,
her.
or killed her.
And then the body
And then
wasn't
dumped
found.
the body somewhere where it hasn't
Right.
been found.
I'm going to say it's typical, though, when that happens, and that is very... Usually, they're abducted, molested, and released and found. That's actually... That's the most common thing that happens. A lot of people don't know that. You just don't hear about that. Usually, they're let loose alive. If they're killed, they're almost always... The body's found. Pretty nearby. Within 10 miles. If the body's never found, there's a chance that they're still alive.
Yeah.
There have been people that were abducted and then raised and didn't figure out that they were even abducted until they were 12, 13, 14 years old.
And remember we were thinking, because we were talking about the Ariel Castro case.
Yeah.
And I said, man, we should do a whole show. And a couple people have recommended this as well.
Castro.
We should do a whole show about people that were kidnapped and then kept as sex slaves for like 10, 20 years. Because there's a lot of cases like disturbing.
Girl in a box. But
there's a lot of cases like that.
But the thing is they deserve whole shows.
Yeah, we should do. Yeah, I don't want to like lump them all together
Can't
in one
lump them
show
together.
because some of them like, particularly the Ariel Castro case and the girl in the box and stuff like
shitbag.
that. The one that like kept was it his daughter? Kept her locked in the basement and like fathered several children.
Oh, that was over in Germany or Austria. I think it was Germany. Right?
Yeah, something like that.
He built an underground
like an apartment.
Apartment for her. It was all musty and
That was fucked up.
she was raising his kids and shit. Yeah, he's
that needs a whole show too, because
Yeah,
that
he's
was
a
some
whole
fucked up
fucking
shit
weirdo.
right there.
Looked like Dennis Rader's cousin. I don't know why he did that.
You bitches are all related. You're all related.
I would have never done
Admit
that.
it, Dennis.
Not with your own daughter. That's unacceptable.
Oh, but you would have done it with someone else though.
Well, of course,
Yeah,
just,
of course. I don't have a lot of patience for Dennis anymore.
Yeah. I'm just telling you. I have a feeling. I have a feeling that in this particular case, I got a feeling that there's a good chance that was done by a woman, and that this little girl may still be alive. That's what I'm saying.
Well, like I said, I hope that's true.
I think so.
I really do.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So, let's wrap up this discussion of the Madeleine McCann case. There was, like, so much I couldn't get to in this. But, like I said, if you really want to go to Netflix, watch the 8-part... It's an 8-part documentary, you guys. It's like it took me so long to watch it.
Yeah, you know what? I'll tell you, it was a little tedious.
It didn't need to be 8 parts.
No, it should have been more like 4.
Yeah. I feel like they kind of stretched it out a little bit.
Yeah.
I can see what they were going for. The director was like, I was trying to convey like how it happened in real time, like through the media. He was trying to
fulfill some kind of contract.
But yeah, it
Netflix,
really did seem like it didn't need to be that long. Because a lot of it was like a little repetitive.
Netflix paid his ass for 8, so he delivered 8.
So he's like, okay, well, I'll do 8. Yeah, it's like 8. It's like 8, like almost an hour. Each episode is almost an hour. It was like 52 minutes or something.
He knows about money.
Yeah.
He knew about
I watched it all, though. It's like, I'm fascinated by that stuff.
It wasn't as good as the one about the girls that in the Catholic school that were getting pimped out by the cops and the priests.
Oh, The Keepers?
Yeah.
That wasn't 8 episodes, though. I think that was only 4 or 5
That was
episodes.
a fucking bad program.
I should do a show about that,
We gotta do a show about that
Well,
one.
I wrote about that because... I mean, Sister Kathy Sesnick, that was like a
Yeah.
big case. And there was, like, what a lot of people don't know, and I wrote about this in my book, they kind of mentioned it a little bit on the show, but there was a whole bunch of other murders that were kind of similar that happened around that same, like Joyce Malecki, and there was, like, some other ones, too, that happened right around there that might have been related to the same shit that was going on. Priests molesting people? No, that never happens. Yes, it does.
They were in charge of a whole Catholic school, and they were fucking pimping them little girls out to the cops, among other people.
Yeah, to me,
and politicians.
Yeah, that doesn't.
That was like some Alex Jones level shit.
That doesn't.
And it was really happening. Yeah.
I mean, that does happen on, like I don't think it happens on like nationwide scales, but it happens on small scale, sure.
I don't know, man. That Pope's awful weird.
Well, the Pope.
That Pope is fucking awful weird.
Well, like I said, the Catholic Church, it's kind of sad they're kind of fucking known for that, right?
I think it's a big money laundering scheme, really. I heard that they have their own bank.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Think about it.
Yeah.
They'd launder anybody's money. Doing what they do, I'm going to leave it at that. They might have their own assassins. They'll send John Wick after my ass for talking bad about him.
Yeah, they probably will. If you're not on the show next week, everybody knows what happened.
Me talking about the Pope's bank. When I was at church, we always knew that the Catholics were bad.
Yeah.
Of course, it's a Protestantism,
Although, like I said, if they were really that powerful, every stupid motherfucker on YouTube that talked about that shit would be dead. So, you know what I mean. I wouldn't worry about it if I were you.
Father Guido Sarducci coming after you.
Did he die? Did that guy die?
I don't know.
Is he still alive?
I don't know.
But so, like, young people have no idea what we're talking about. They're just like, who the fuck is that? He wasn't a real priest, honestly.
He's a comedian that acted like a Catholic priest with fucking rose-colored glasses and a cigar, and he would try to absolve you of your sins and say some shit. It was funny. He was from Saturday Night Live. Yeah. You can look up Father Guido Sarducci. I'm sure he'll be up there on YouTube.
I'm sure he's got his own Wikipedia page. Yeah, look up that shit from old SNL.
That was back in the cocaine era.
Cocaine and marijuana. Yeah. Everyone was on the horse and the Mary Jane. And
boy, I'm reading all these stuff about, Billy Idol and John Lydon and then fucking, the Sex Pistols. Man, everybody was on heroin back in those days. Susie
they really were.
Heroin.
I'm amazed that they are still alive.
They're still alive.
Some of them are not, sadly, but an alarming amount of them are. I don't know how they did it.
John Lydon wasn't on heroin. He liked cocaine, though. He didn't say so, but he says, well, I didn't like heroin. That's all bullshit. I like things that kept you alert. Which is a code word, Oh, yes. Yeah, okay.
Well, yeah. Well, I can say it's such a thing, like when we were talking about this before, but it's like, a lot of creative people have, problems with anxiety and depression and things like that. And a lot of them will try to self-medicate, which is why a lot of them are drunks or drug addicts or something of that nature. And I feel like a lot of musicians at that time period, I mean, heroin was kind of the in thing, man. It's like everybody, particularly in the British alternative music scene and then the New York punk rock scene, everybody was on that shit. And honestly, like I said, I'm a lot, like, look at fucking, I'm like a huge Nick Cave fan. Oh my God, he was on so much heroin, you guys. Yeah. And it's like, I am amazed. He's still alive and he still looks pretty fantastic, even though he's in his 50s.
Well, they're like fucking, he's in his late 50s at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's still out touring.
Well, heroin makes you like a vampire. You're sleeping all the time, so you just kind of get mummified. Now, I always thought that
it either kills you young or it preserves you, like forever. Because look at Iggy Pop, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
He's like fucking 100 and he still looks great.
Steven Tyler, same way. It's another one.
True.
But, yeah, see, I always thought that in the case of Sid Vicious, when you watch fucking Sid and Nancy, that Nancy Spelungan got him on heroin.
Spelungan.
Yeah,
Spelungan,
that's what you do.
like
That's what you do down in the cave. Yeah. But I was under the impression that Nancy got him on that, and that was kind of like the story. But
they yokoed her ass.
That's not what happened. He was already addicted by the time he was 15. Sid's mom got him on heroin. Sid's mom was a junkie. That's where that shit came from. So
I feel bad for Sid.
Nancy was just like his mom. Exactly. Yeah. So that was actually, he was just dating a woman.
I feel like Nancy got shit on.
She
got fucking murdered, man. It's like in the fucking.
Yeah, that's probably not what happened.
But even in the movie, like as much as I love the movie Sid and Nancy, and I was talking about this before, it's like they really made Nancy look like an annoying bitch, and I really don't feel like she was like that.
Well, some of the guys said that. What was her name? That girl, the woman that watched out. She said no, that she was actually quite cool. In a certain way. But Vivian Westwood. Vivian Westwood said that she was actually quite cool.
Well, she was a junkie too, but she had her shit together more than he did.
Yeah. But to get on the whole Sid and Nancy thing, there's no evidence that Sid stabbed Nancy.
Yeah.
All right. That may have been an accident. They were both terrible junkies.
Yeah, they were.
And Nancy was the kind of girl to stab herself in an argument, too.
Yeah, I'm totally open to that possibility.
Too. And she was alive for at least 24 hours in that room with him before she died.
I think even in the... and I haven't seen the movie in a long time, but I think even in the movie, they made it seem like she wanted him to do it. Like she goaded him.
They were high. They were fucking high.
Right. So even in that movie, even though it made her look like an annoying bitch, which she probably wasn't, even they were like, there's a lot of gray area where it wasn't just like, oh, you bitch, and he stabbed her. I don't think it happened like that.
I think Sid told her to fuck off. And he was going to leave her, and she throws a fit and stabbed herself.
It's possible.
And then she didn't think the wound was that bad, and then they went back to shooting up heroin. in a fight.
Yeah, because maybe
that's all
she
it was.
wasn't even thinking about it. She's
No.
like, oh, whatever, just a flash.
It was
wound.
just a small
Yeah.
little penetration, and she was bleeding inside, but it took a long time
We should do a whole
for her
show
to
on
die.
that.
We'll do a show on that. We'll do a show on that, on punk scene or something.
Well, yeah, like I think I've been wanting to do one about that for like a really long time, and I think somebody asked us about it, but it's just like that.
Yeah.
That's something that I know a lot about. It's like I was kind of there, read a lot about it at the time, and it's like that's something that's really fascinating to me. I love
Even
all that shit.
John Lydon
I love all that post-punk
said
kind of.
he said nobody knows what happened in that room. Said
Yeah.
that heroin killed them. Heroin killed both of them.
I would agree with that.
Eventually, that's what he said.
Yeah.
I think she stabbed herself in an argument in protest of something, and then she didn't go run for help.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So she stayed up there with him,
Yeah.
getting high, and then I think they just thought it'd be all right.
Yeah.
Oh, it'll be all right. It'll heal up.
Yeah.
You know.
And then.
And then
It didn't.
She died. Yeah. When he woke up, she'd been dead for a little while.
Yeah.
So I don't think he killed. He didn't run or anything.
Yeah, that's true. Too.
Yeah. I don't think it was murder.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
No.
All right, so let's wrap up episode 141 about the disappearance of Madeleine Mccann, among other things. Went off on many tangents, as we usually do. But remember, if you like the show, like, share, subscribe on all your social media, share with all your friends and family. Remember, if you'd like to financially support the show, it would be much appreciated. Go to our Patreon page, patreon.com/13o'clockpodcast, or you can go to our blog, 13o'clockpodcast.wordpress.com, and there's a little button in the sidebar to a PayPal account where you can give a one-time donation if you would like to do that. Also, remember, check out our Zazzle store, zazzle.com/13o'clock. We have a lot of t-shirts and mugs and pillows and all kind of fun stuff that you can purchase if you so desire. Also, check out my Game Crafter store where I have Giallo games, which is I have several different games about.
Yeah, show them the game. They're right
Yeah,
there.
that are like based around. I got this one right here.
Show them that big one.
I got.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. There's so much stuff over here.
This is the
Yeah,
new one.
this is
thing's
my
awesome.
newest one. There, it's
Yeah.
called The Three Sorrows.
Show them
all
the
of-
back. Show them the back.
All of them are based around like Giallo movies, Italian murder mysteries, that kind of stuff. All three of them are different, so they have
Board
different
games, you know what I
gameplay.
mean? You drink and
Board
you play
games,
with
card
play with
games,
your
yeah.
friends and
All that
yeah.
kind of stuff. So check that out if you would, please. Also check out our last movie review, which was the 2018 movie Upgrade, and go check that out if you haven't already. And we will see you on the next episode next week. Bye.